Welcome to Mind Life Weekly. My name is Derek and this channel is all about simple psychology for everyday life. Today we'll be discussing the final part of this 3-part series about breaking bad habits. Like the previous 2 parts, this is a comprehensive video and so there will be timestamps in the video description if you want to skip ahead. However, it is recommended you do watch the video from start to end. So, without any further ado, let's begin. The 7 steps for breaking bad habits. The principles involved in breaking habits have been discussed in parts 1 and 2 of this video series. In the 3rd installment, we will be applying these principles to real-life situations to present and prove their practical use in our everyday lives. There's a simple 7-step process to break bad habits. Let's dive in, shall we? Step number 1. Set a goal. Stephen Richards wrote, "Our way of thinking creates good or bad outcomes." Indeed it does. This is the reason why it is essential for humans to set goals. Goals are important to create, better, modify, stop and change something. This includes habits. The mind is oriented towards goals. Goals are greatly motivating. They have a way of absorbing one's attention and psychological energy, which then fuels them to maneuver into a new direction. As your energy gets subtly redirected towards achieving your goal, it kills off the energy that went into feeding your bad habit. Additionally, goals can be the motivation that fuel bottom-up kind of changes. Moved by the desire to create something better, goals can cause one to act. Remember the example of my friend's intestine infestation from the previous video? His goal was very simple: to be healthy, vibrant and strong again. His goal allowed him to easily say no to foods that caused him to be sicker, no matter how mouth-watering they may be. Also, because he could see himself succeeding as the Master General in his storyline, he managed to cut off all the supply lines to the enemy, and by doing as such he actually destroyed a much greater force. Most importantly, his motivation was so strong that changing his eating habits became easy, even if the method was extremely radical. Step number 2. Get leverage. Every person needs to have some form of psychological leverage on themselves in order to be able to make changes. Leverage is beneficial because it is basically the emotional content that will drive new behaviours and get a person beyond their old ones. In other words, leverage is another way to activate bottom-up changes. How do you get leverage? There are several ways to do this. My favourite way is coming at a crossroad. When individuals are given a choice, they can figure out all the consequences of choosing one path versus the other. Going back to my previous example of my sickly friend, he actually found himself at a crossroad too when it came time to choose between eating sugary foods versus healthier options. At this crossroad, he started thinking about how life would be if he kept on eating those delicious cheesecakes and other sugary foods that he enjoyed so much. He thought of all the consequences. He realised that if he didn't stop his habit of eating sweet treats, he'd keep feeding the enemy and the parasites would continue to make him ill. In a psychological point of view, he reached his threshold point. Or simply, he had blown up the situation. Rather it being small enough for him to tolerate from day to day, he made it worse until the pain was so intense he could no longer take it. He came to the point when he said to himself, "I can no longer take the pain. It has to stop." It is not his intention to reminisce the past and to torture himself every single day with negative events. His only purpose is to remind himself of past events in order to get clarity and have the right perspective. Likewise, he does not want to use the said circumstances in his past to make excuses. All he is seeking from remembering the past, the good, the bad and the ugly, is to learn something so he doesn't repeat the same mistakes, especially since the bad and the ugly were pretty bad and hideous. As he continued to delay the inevitable, he got sicker and sicker. He started losing the energy he required to complete tasks. At some point, he was not able to work anymore and went broke. Later on, he decided that he did not like the look of that particular path. He no longer wanted to be sick, therefore he started making healthier choices. he redirected himself and chose the path that would grant him health, even if it meant sacrificing some of the things he enjoyed. This particular path warranted him to give up all the sweets and everything that was not a necessity. As the days went on, he could feel himself having more energy, breathing more clearly, becoming more alert and vibrant, and feeling healthier. At the end of the whole process, he became more like the person he always wanted to be: fun, energetic, and creative, and could go on to have wonderful experiences. At this point, he had some pretty big leverage. To make the whole process of change more interesting, he decided to add some super drivers into the mix. This ensured a supercharged path for him. Super drivers are 16 different patterns that every human being responds to in a very powerful way. Each person responds to super drivers differently. One super driver may be more compelling and forceful than the other. Nevertheless, all these drivers have very strong motivating impact on humans. In fact, almost everything that we do in life is driven in one way or another by one of these super drivers. Super drivers are the key to getting super motivated. If you want to find out more about these super drivers, simply subscribe to the channel and wait for the video series on maximum motivation. It will discuss ways to overcome procrastination and get things done. Motivation is a huge key to that whole process, and so are the super drivers. Watching those videos will help you find out which ones drive you. In my friend's case, he used several super drivers to supercharge his situation. He took the romance super driver by thinking about how more excited his girlfriend will be and how much better their relationship would be once he had more energy instead of just moping around the house all day. He also used the positive version of the vengeance super driver when he imagined the war against the enemy and his desire to win. His desire to get revenge on the enemy that weakened him was more intense than his desire for cheesecake. Then, he utilized the power super driver to inspire him as he exerted his will to control himself. By doing this, he developed his ability to control his inner power and his personal power. He nurtured his ability to face the world the way he wanted to, and his experience has truly been a great challenge to enhance that skill within himself. Lastly, the tranquility super driver motivated him to choose health. He longed to finally see himself having the peace of mind that comes from having a healthy, vibrant and strong body and an alert mind. He longed to feel the serenity that comes from knowing that everything is well, and that he had no medical complications because he chose the right things for himself. By using the above methods, he developed massive leverage, and he was super motivated to get this thing done. Step number 3, find a replacement. Remember, nature abhors a vacuum. My friend made a big mistake when he first started changing his diet. He had no idea what to eat. For a while, he did not eat anything. He was clueless on what foods would trigger his sickness and what would make him healthier. Hence, he decided to do some research and find a replacement for the foods that he was not allowed to eat. This brings me to an important point when it comes to finding replacements. As a rule, the replacement should be related to the habits or actions that are being replaced. Keep in mind, habits cannot be undone. They can only be replaced with another habit. Smokers who like to fidget with their hands might need a fidget toy, a stress ball, or something of that sort. They are also doing something with their mouths, breathing the smoke in. They claim that all these habits calm them. Therefore, 3 deep breaths can replace smoking because it can also have a calming effect on a person. For individuals biting their nails to release stress, they might switch to twirling a pen around instead. I once knew a smoker who stopped smoking by diverting all his energy and attention into this silly yet cool little trick. Whenever he felt stressed, he would take a pen, spin it around his knuckles and catch it over and over again. He used to do it at the back of the class from time to time. It caught people's attention. Over time, it became a really powerful habit that replaced his smoking habit. He no longer resorted to smoking when he felt stressed out, because all of his energy had been diverted to his pen spinning trick. A person who nail bites can do something similar. A stress ball can also be used as an alternative each time a situation becomes stressful. The habit of nail biting has been proven to be stress-oriented most of the time. Of course, it could also be because of other things, but if it's stress-oriented, the simplest thing to do is to learn a new relaxation method. Here is one simple relaxation trick. Squeeze your arms and fist. Squeeze them tight. Then release them. As you release them, your body floods with relaxation. It uses physical and mental energy. It allows you to break down the elements of stress, whilst at the same time building a new habit that could be quite useful to get into. This is known as the relaxation response. A good meditation relaxation will help you feel calm, relaxed and focused. Hypnotic meditations aim to help people learn how to release their stress in a healthier way and regain their focus. Let us take the case of an overweight person. Part of the problem of being overweight is overeating. This habit needs to be replaced. How to do this? This can be done by having healthier food choices and by practicing moderation. Remember, too much of anything is never a good thing. This might sound simple in theory, but sometimes when a person eats only half of the amount they used to eat, the stomach might not feel full. This is when water becomes useful. Personally, I have used this particular trick a couple of times when I feel hungry, but I do not know what to eat, especially during times when, for whatever reason, I was not allowing myself to eat any sugary snacks. I just drink water, and immediately my hunger disappears because my stomach gives me a signal that it's now full. I feel great, and then I move on. Nevertheless, it is best to understand that there are other issues involving weight control than just eating habits. At times, there may also be a strong emotional component. Many people will overeat because they're emotionally unhappy or feel stressed out. Eating becomes a coping mechanism instead of just a way for them to satisfy their physiological need for sustenance. It becomes a way to deal with emotions and make them feel better again. Eating serves as a form of self-medication to these people. If this is the case, it is very important to handle the emotional aspect as well. If it is stress, you can turn to our video series titled Stress Success, where you can learn how to control, diminish, and even banish stress. If overeating is caused by other emotional issues, you may find your emotional balance again by watching the videos in our Emotional Mastery series. If there are issues from the past plaguing your current behaviour, you may have to wait for our upcoming videos on getting past your past. Step number 4. Put energy in the replacement. Step 4 is about putting energy into the replacing your old habit with a new one. Individuals need to be equally motivated to do the replacement and to be able to let go of the old habit. If steps 1 and 2 are in place, this step will be easier to accomplish. When one has a goal and leverage, it will be easy for them to find energy for the new behaviour. How to do this? Step number 1 is to go back to the super drivers. Being clear about what you want and having leverage are necessary for this step. The second thing is to tie all these together and create a personal story or metaphor that can enhance your reason to engage in the new behaviour. Let us go back to the example of water from the previous video. My metaphor was the person struggling through the desert, the hero that survived against the odds. As I thought of myself being in the desert, being this struggling hero who refused to give in and was determined to beat the elements, I envisioned water as my ultimate reward. Nothing can be more rewarding to a man that has survived the dangers of the desert than to have an unlimited supply of cool, clear water. Let us take other examples. The smoker could also develop a metaphor of a dusty old house, with wide open windows to let the crisp, clean, fresh morning air come in and clear up all the cobwebs and freshen up the stale air so the room looks vibrant and full of energy again. This is symbolic to the smoker taking 3 deep breaths instead of puffing a cigarette each time the situation becomes stressful. This particular metaphor can appeal to a smoker, hence the 3 deep breaths can be motivating and appealing. If the metaphor does not appeal to them, it is likely because there is no super driver with it. Therefore, there is no point in using it. try using something different. Step number 5, rehearse the replacement. The next thing to do is to rehearse the replacement. You have to actually want to do it. Do not wait until you're on the firing line. Build some connections ahead of time. This is where the top-down thinking really kicks in. To some extent, one has to do the actual activity several times on purpose for it to become a habit. By doing the activity, one is building the neurological connections. The brain is building bridges to make the new habit easier to perform. The smoker can actually practice the 3 deep breaths even before they have to finally give up smoking. They should realize that they actually find enjoyment in it, so that they forget to smoke because it is more pleasant. The key to doing this is motivation. Where can motivation come from? There are 2 sources. 1. Superdrivers. 2. The metaphors you tell yourself about what you're doing. Going out of the balcony and just breathing in and out will not be exciting for anyone. However, if you go out of the balcony with a full understanding of the benefits of taking 3 deep breaths, you will have a different perspective. You will appreciate the action and will be more motivated to do it. You can imagine the cool morning air cleaning the cobwebs and sweeping out the stale air in your lungs. The room becomes brighter, more vibrant and fresh. Or you might even be able to smell the freshly cut grass outside or the scent of flowers coming in. At this point, the first breath becomes so much more appealing. By rehearsing it, you're also training your brain to do it more often. Rehearsals can occur inside your brain. Remember, your mind cannot distinguish between what you imagine and what is actually happening. Therefore, even if it is useful to do the actual behavior, it is also useful to mentally rehearse it. For example, you can rehearse the situation where you put yourself in a cocktail party as a smoker. Somebody offers you a drink and you drink it happily. Then what do? Instead of puffing a cigarette, you pause, breathe in, breathe out, and you feel great again. You do it again in a different scenario. Let us say you're feeling stress at work and all the things you have to do are piling up and all the triggers are present. But instead of smoking, what do? You realize the room is getting staler and you open a window and let the fresh air come in. You breathe in and breathe out, and you will feel fantastic. As time goes on, when those situations do arise and you have to make a choice, the chance of not resorting to smoking is pretty high. Step number 6. Activate your inner resources that tie physical action to symbolic metaphor. Step 6 is turning on all your inner resources and tying the physical action with the actual metaphor. In short, you have to put yourself in the context. Think about doing the behavior and at the same time reflect on what that behavior means and link it to the metaphor you have told yourself. Getting back to my friend, instead of eating cheesecake, he sat down and thought about all the things he could eat. He could eat omelettes, which he was fond of. He could also eat certain soups, provided he cooked them himself. As he anticipated eating those foods, he started feeling happy because he was thinking, I'm going to kill all those little buggers inside. The thought gave him tremendous sense of satisfaction and motivation. He had tied all of his chains together and his motivations were intact. His bottom-up process is there, he practiced, and his rehearsal is his top-down process. His thoughts and feelings were in line, and thus he could get the results he aimed for. Step number 7. Use some form of hypnotic meditation. Step 7 is to integrate some form of hypnotic meditation to accompany and guide you as you break your bad habits. It's very easy to find some quality MP3s online. Alternatively, you could speak to a reputable hypnotist or hypnotherapist. The recordings found at Hypnotist NYC, founded by leading hypnotist and breaking bad habits expert Marco Orcello, will help prepare your mind and leading it to achieve the results you want if you listen to them daily. A successful outcome is the consequence of doing all the other steps and making sure the unconscious mind accepts it. Hypnotist NYC's meditative recordings on breaking bad habits, together with this video series, offer a unique way of creating bottom-up change because it allows you to speak directly to your unconscious mind and start creating changes in there, which is very powerful. Remember the words of Buddha. We are shaped by our thoughts. We become what we think. The mind has the power to construct realities and generate outcomes. By taking advantage of the mind, all bases will be covered. You will have the intellectual information, which is the top-down change, and you will have emotional information with a quality hypnotic meditation, which is your bottom-up change. All together, they create a virtually impenetrable circle that will help you achieve whatever you want out of life and break whatever bad habit you have. Breaking a bad habit takes time and effort, but mostly it takes perseverance. Always remember that some people who end up breaking their bad habits try and fail multiple times before they make it work. You might not have success right away, but that does not mean you cannot or will not have it at all. You have to believe in yourself and believe in your power to fashion your realities to the way you want it to be. Conclusion. So there you have it. I do hope you enjoyed the 7 simple steps in today's video, learned something valuable from our 3-part video series, and discovered the true power inside of you. Turn your learning into something that would empower you to cease negativity and embrace the change you aim for. That's about it from me. Mind Life Weekly will continue to have more discussions on the human mind, so stay excited for our next fascinating video. As always, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, show us your appreciation by tapping the like button on your way out. And remember to subscribe and hit the bell icon to stay informed when our next video is published, which will be much sooner than you think.